I see the penitentiary one day. Running from the police, that's right.
Every black record label out there, we outsold them in 1 year. All these people talking about the East Coast.
Hotel lobby after a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, believed to be in response to an earlier.
Tupac Shakur, the ace of death row. The only man who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Snoop Dogg during the golden age of the West Coast Empire. But in 1996, Tupac was gone forever, leaving behind a void America would never fill. But after 27 years, the FBI suddenly released documents buried for decades. And once pieced together, the Tupac case instantly became one of the most complex and chilling files in federal investigative history. A classified dossier powerful enough to challenge every piece of hard evidence in court. An underground set of documents that even death row had never laid eyes on. Hollywood wanted to erase him. A top star thrown into darkness. A warrior forced to step away from the spotlight to protect the last of his dignity. Do not blink. The final secret, the one the FBI described as impossible to explain with normal logic, will truly shock you. The 27-year case with no ending left the secrets never revealed. 27 years. Long enough for a case to go cold, long enough for witnesses to fall silent, and long enough for an entire generation to believe the truth was buried with Tupac Shakur. But recently, the case that seemed dead suddenly rose like an old nightmare. Someone ripped the dusty blanket off. Keefe D., a name thought forgotten, was handcuffed and escorted away. This was the first time in the history of the Tupac case that someone was actually arrested. And from that very second, everything flipped. Police tore apart his home USBs, papers, documents, drafts of statements. The only thing they did not find was the gun. The gun he once said he passed to the back seat. The gun many rumors claim is still hidden somewhere inside LAPD's archived files, or was quietly disposed of. And the white Cadillac, the car every statement mentioned, it has never been found, as if it never existed. While the whole world argued, Suge Knight, the man sitting right next to Tupac in the BMW that night, made a statement cold enough to freeze the room. I know who fired, but I will never say. A sentence that hammered another layer of darkness onto a case already drowning in fog. But the old files were even darker. Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, the man the media, police, and community all viewed as suspect number one, was released after only 48 hours because police could not find a single physical piece of evidence tying him to the Cadillac or the gun. No direct witness. Only a video of Pac attacking him at MGM Grand a few hours before he fell. A loose fragment that could easily flip Orlando back into the role of victim. Then in 1998, Orlando died in another shootout. When a suspect is dead, the story becomes easier to tell, easier to conclude, easier to sweep away. The dead cannot argue, cannot explain, cannot say, "I did not do it." Which is why, ever since Orlando died, every accusation has been dumped on him like a basket spun whichever way the wind blows. What is suspicious is that Keefe D., the only man still alive who was inside the Cadillac, was offered immunity from drug charges if he cooperated with police about Tupac's murder. And from then on, from 2009 to 2023, every time he appeared on TV podcasts or in a book, the story changed colors, changed directions, but always flowed toward one conclusion: Orlando pulled the trigger. But the way he told it was strange, always vague, always missing half the truth. I passed the gun to the back. The man in the right rear seat fired. And from here, another theory rose. If Keefe D. does not tell the full truth, he could easily be charged as the shooter himself, and the Tupac case would be closed, immediately ending as one of the longest-running cases in American history. Dozens of theories spread across social media. Maybe Orlando really fired. Maybe Keefe D. is constructing a story to save himself. And maybe both are wrong. The real shooter could be a third person who has never once been mentioned in 27 years. The Tupac case, after 2.5 decades, still has no absolute truth. Every new statement only deepens the cracks in an already distorted picture. And that very fog forced police to return to the one place where everything should have been revealed from the start: the door that stayed locked for 5 months inside Tupac Shakur's garage. Because inside that room were secrets that could have rewritten the entire history of hip-hop, if they had been opened sooner. The hidden mystery. The door. No one was allowed to touch. When the investigation restarted, police were forced to return to the root of every suspicion, the metal door locked for 5 months after Tupac's death. Few knew that the moment the shooting happened, all his property immediately fell into legal dispute between Death Row, the Shakur family, and their attorneys. No one agreed to sign release papers. No one wanted to give up ownership. And while arguments dragged on a normal garage accidentally turned into a sealed vault of secrets, no one was allowed to access. February 1997, when the court finally issued the order to unseal and inventory the assets. And when Detective Marcus Hendricks stepped inside with his team, he instantly knew something was off. This was not the storage space of a celebrity who flaunted riches. Instead, it was a room designed like a strategic research lab, fully soundproofed walls, halogen lights hanging in rows like a film editing studio, heavy steel shelves lining both sides with boxes labeled by week. This was the moment investigators realized Tupac was not living only the rebellious rapper life on the surface, and what lay on the main desk would shatter everything people thought they knew about his final months. Sources told investigators that this search was connected to Dwayne Davis, also known as Keef D, who had publicly talked about the night Tupac was killed in YouTube videos and in his book. And the moment Keef D's name was mentioned, everything inside this room suddenly became twice as terrifying. 3 thick black binders sat on the desk, each packed with hundreds of pages. The first contained film scripts, but not for films Tupac had been hired to act in. These were films he planned to direct himself. Detailed production schedules, budget allocations, casting notes written in his own handwriting. Everything showed he was studying the film industry as if preparing to shift into a completely different career. One script titled Thug Angels told stories about gang intervention programs. Attached were proposals to partner with real nonprofit organizations and plans for community screenings where all proceeds would go directly to youth support programs in struggling neighborhoods. And the second binder was even more explosive. Pages of financial documents revealed where Tupac's money actually went, and it was nothing like the jewelry and parties people assumed. Bank statements showed he sent monthly payments to bail out young men jailed for minor offenses. Receipts showed he covered legal fees for families who could not afford them. Transfer confirmations proved he donated to literacy programs, mentoring organizations, and community centers across California. And all of it was kept silent. No press conferences, no interviews, simply quiet help for those who needed it. A check for $50,000 was sent to a literacy program in Watts, just 3 days before he flew to Las Vegas. The most shocking part was the prosecutor's notes attached to the financial documents showing that Tupac's level of community work was significant enough that if he ever ran into legal trouble, he could have received major sentence reductions. The numbers, receipts, transfers all painted a completely different portrait, a rapper who did not party away his money, but used it as a lifeline for an entire generation trapped in poverty and violence. And the check for $50,000 to the literacy program in Watts just 3 days before he flew to Las Vegas was the final piece of evidence smashing every outdated assumption about who Tupac truly was. But that still was not the most shocking part. The escape plan from death row. The third binder contained something that if Tupac had lived long enough to finish it, could have changed the history of hip-hop. Legal documents showed Tupac was building his own record label completely separate from death row. The incorporation papers dated August 1996 proved he had registered the name Machiavelli Records, filed trademark protection, and started negotiating with distributors who could release his future albums without Suge Knight involved. This meant one thing: once Machiavelli Records launched Death Row, would lose its biggest asset. This was not just a departure, it was a power reversal. This truth became even more frightening. When viewed in context, Death Row had just lost Dr. Dre in 1996 after internal conflicts, and Snoop Dogg was already distancing himself from Suge's control. Tupac was the last remaining star strong enough to keep Death Row on the hip-hop map. If he left, the label would lose all 3 of its pillars in a single year. A total collapse. And in the industry, everyone knew Suge was a man who never let power slip from his hands. Could all of this be enough to support the long-standing rumors about extreme tension between Suge Knight and Tupac? The pages in the third binder made that question colder than ever. The business plans detailed how he wanted to sign young artists, mentor them, and build a full production studio with sound engineers and video directors creating something that would outlast even his own music. The evidence was undeniable. Tupac was preparing to leave death row, and he had already built everything necessary to do it on his own terms. Police continued searching the garage, and that was when they found the locked metal box. It sat behind a filing cabinet steel with a coded lock. When Tupac Shakur's attorney provided the combination, they opened it and found a stack of mini DV tapes, each tape labeled by date from July to early September 1996. When played at the station, they showed Tupac sitting alone speaking directly into the camera as if recording a video diary. And what he said haunted everyone watching because Tupac knew something terrible was getting close: the abandoned escape door. When the investigative team stepped deeper into Tupac's garage, they thought they would only find the usual belongings of a star. Some recording equipment, a few luxury cars meant for showing off maybe a couple of boxes waiting to be moved. But in the farthest corner of the room, right on top of the cold hydraulic lift, they saw something that made everyone freeze: a black BMW 750iL, brand new, without a single scratch, without a single mile on the odometer. A car that had never touched the street. A car that had never been used. A car that seemed to exist for one purpose, only to wait for its owner to step inside and leave America forever. Even stranger was the purchase date. The invoice was pinned to a clipboard next to the work desk. Tupac bought this car only 3 weeks before the Las Vegas altercation. Not the BMW the world saw in the shooting. This was a different one. A clean twin secretive prepared in absolute silence. It sat there like an escape door that had never been opened. When investigators pulled open the drawer beneath the desk, they found the car keys. But what lay next to the keys was what truly chilled them. A small piece of paper written in Tupac's familiar handwriting slanted thick strokes: powerful exit plan, New York or Ghana. Decide by October. Just the 2 words exit plan were enough to change the entire atmosphere. This was no longer a garage, no longer a place for cars. This was a room built for an escape. When they opened the car trunk, the truth became clearer than ever. No suitcases, no film props, no music equipment. Instead, it was a scientifically organized disappearance kit prepared with no emotion, only precision. A real passport under the name Tupac Amaru Shakur. A fake passport, different name, different nationality, made at a highly professional level. $80,000 in cash vacuum sealed in bundles, as if meant for a long journey without banks and without a trace. A handwritten international contact book listing numbers of people in Jamaica, Cuba, Ghana. 3 places with large black communities, minimal American oversight, and known as destinations for those who wish to vanish off the radar. International calling cards, the kind used at the time to make calls without going through American carriers. Legal documents about transferring part of his assets offshore to avoid control from death row records. All placed together like pieces of a plan never meant to be revealed, a plan to disappear from the world Tupac once dominated. Investigators looked at the entire scene and understood something no one had ever said, never thought, never dared admit. Tupac was not preparing to die. Tupac was preparing to leave everything behind to live somewhere else. A brand new BMW forgotten among secrets. An escape door left unopened. A future Tupac had written for himself, but fate erased before he could take the keys and drive away. And at that moment, the FBI realized they were not investigating Tupac's death. They were investigating his plan for rebirth. The final journal, Tupac's last message. But what they found under the driver's seat was what raised questions that still have no answers. When an investigator lifted the BMW door higher, the flashlight beam skimmed across fine dust on the floor. No one thought anything special would be there. It was a brand new car, never driven a single mile, still smelling like new leather. But right in the crack beneath the driver's seat, a small leather notebook was pressed tightly against the frame, as if intentionally hidden, not stored, waiting to be found. Investigator Marcus Hendricks opened it, and the entire atmosphere of the garage seemed to sink, because the words on those pages were not drafts of a song, not work plans, not artistic ideas. They were the final thoughts of a man who knew he was stepping into something he would not escape. The first pages showed Tupac had sensed danger long before. He wrote that for many weeks he felt someone was walking behind me, not metaphorically, but literally. Footsteps, stairs, cars parked too long outside, hotels, unfamiliar faces, appearing repeatedly in crowds, faces he recognized from other cities. He described the feeling of being watched not with fear, but with the cold judgment of someone who grew up around gangs and understood that silence often signals danger more than gunfire. Some lines were crossed out repeatedly, as if Tupac did not know whether he was trying to confess or warn himself. One passage said, "They know every move. They know the schedule. They know what I am planning." It is unclear who they were, but the context of the previous binders showed Tupac was preparing to leave death row and build Machiavelli records. For any man with pride, that would just be a career move. But in an environment of violence, debt, and underground networks surrounding death row, it was a silent declaration of war. And Tupac knew it. He wrote that he feared death row saw him as a liability, a burden, a risk, a man who held too many of the label's secrets and could one day become a threat. And when an empire operates on the edge of legality, any burden can become a target. These lines were not loud, not panicked, not self-pitying. They read like a man writing down a truth he had already accepted. Another passage recorded his unease about the Las Vegas trip. Tupac wrote that he tried to cancel the trip many times. He was not just uneasy, he believed Vegas is the trap. He described attempts to persuade his team to cancel the small arguments. The responses like "everything is fine," "it is just one night," and the invisible pressure forcing him to be somewhere he did not want to be. Reading this, Hendrix told colleagues he felt Tupac was running from exactly the place he was being pulled toward. The following pages grew heavy with fate. Tupac's writing shifted into shorter, sharper lines, as if he did not have much time and had to write fast. He wrote, "I feel everything closing in too fast. Then I do not know how much time is left." But the final page was what left investigators standing silent. Dated 9/7/1996, the morning he died. Only a few lines short, firm, unembellished. "If tonight goes wrong, the BMW knows where to take them. Tell Mom I tried." A sentence written by hand, tilted slightly right, strong and decisive. Not a goodbye letter, not a plea, but a command for a plan he had already arranged. If he did not survive, the car would be used to take someone, likely his mother, away from whatever retaliation or fallout he feared would follow after he was attacked. The BMW knows where to take them. Take them where? Ghana, New York. A country listed in the hidden contact book. No one knows. But one thing is clear. Tupac was not only afraid for himself, he feared for his family. Feared for those who would be pulled into cycles of revenge calculation or punishment once he was removed from the game. This was not the mindset of an aggressive rapper. It was the mindset of a man standing on the edge between power and hatred. More chilling was the clarity in every word. Tupac did not write like someone desperate. He wrote like someone who had seen something the world had not seen, yet someone who understood the machinery moving in the shadows, someone who knew his decisions had put him in danger, and someone who knew that night would not unfold like a normal boxing evening. Investigators concluded this was not simply fear, it was preparation. Not acceptance of death, but preparation for the possibility of death, planning for consequences, leaving instructions for whoever would continue the work he could not finish. Everything the FBI, Vegas police, and prosecutors thought about Tupac's murder, all the altercations, rumors, revenge theories suddenly felt shallow compared to the pages of that small leather journal. Because the journal did not speak of violence, it spoke of preparation. And only those who are certain they are facing something bigger than themselves prepare at that level. The journal was sealed, placed into an evidence bag, and transferred to the Special Investigations Unit. But after countless analyses, the central questions remained untouched. Who did Tupac fear enough to leave escape instructions? Who made him believe the night of 9/7 could go wrong? And why did a man only 25 years old, living as if he knew the hour of his death, never tell anyone what he wrote in that journal? No one has the answer. And that is the most chilling thing the journal left behind. The future interrupted. When investigators pieced everything together, they realized a truth the world had never been ready to face. Tupac Shakur was not a reckless rebel, not an artist living wildly and stumbling into danger. He did not spiral because of anger. He did not collapse because of hatred. And he was not a star who died young because he lived fast, as the media once repeated. The secrets inside the vault revealed a completely different Tupac, a man entering a stage of rebirth, quietly rebuilding himself as if preparing for a second life he never reached. It all began with the most unexpected sight film scripts that were never revealed. The pages in the first binder were not impulsive ideas. They did not look like random notes from a rapper dreaming of becoming a Hollywood actor. They looked like the plan of a real director, someone who spent time studying, analyzing, calculating each shot, each sequence, each budget line. The blue ink casting notes showed Tupac knew exactly who he wanted for each role, the emotions they needed to convey, whether a scene should be slow or fast. At a time when most artists only read scripts written by others, Tupac was building his own world as if he was about to step into a new universe where power did not sit with Suge Knight or Death Row or gangs or the streets, but inside his own creativity. Tupac wanted to direct not to expand fame. He wrote Thug Angels with the ambition of redefining how society viewed the black community. He wanted to bring real stories to the Screen Connect films, with nonprofits turn each screening into a fundraiser for kids who had no choices. That was not the ambition of a rap star. It was the ambition of a cultural activist, someone who understood that art could save lives if told the right way. A future Tupac, had he lived, might not have stood on a rap stage anymore. He might have appeared on Hollywood's list of young directors opening doors for black talent the way Spike Lee once did. But everything stopped in a dark garage where police flashlights shined on pages that would never become films. The second binder revealed a Tupac the public never knew, a man quietly pouring money into communities, into education, into lawyers for families who could not defend themselves. No press conferences, no PR articles, no cameras. The quiet monthly transfers exposed Tupac's true heart, one that hurt for what he saw growing up, and one that did everything possible so no one else would suffer what he suffered. He never talked about it because he did not do it for praise. He did it because he understood the responsibility of having a voice. Sadly, Tupac's most beautiful actions sat inside a binder covered in dust for 27 years. The third binder was the piece that made everything tremble. The plan to leave Death Row to build Machiavelli Records, a direct rival to Suge Knight's empire. The legal documents, the trademark filings, the list of young artists he wanted to sign, all proved Tupac was ready to step out of the violent shadow choking him day by day. He was rebuilding himself from scratch. No more bloodshed, no more beefs, no more cameras stuck to a thug life image. This was Tupac the operator, Tupac the businessman, Tupac the man who wanted to build a legacy, not just create hits. But to do that, he had to escape what surrounded him, the death row environment, the dangerous connections, the underground agreements, the endless cycles of revenge. All of it made him understand that his next move had to happen elsewhere, somewhere far from Los Angeles. And that was why the untouched BMW existed, a perfect car prepared as an escape vehicle. Inside the trunk were cash bundles, an international contact book calling cards a real passport, a fake passport, offshore transfer documents. All of it made Tupac's words in the video diary crystal clear. He was preparing to leave America, not to flee the law, but to escape the persona the industry forced him to live inside. Tupac wanted to go to Ghana to make films about black history. He wanted a peaceful life, a freer life, a truer life. But that future died with him on the Las Vegas Strip. Because when investigators opened the journal beneath the driver's seat, they read the final lines of a man who knew he was walking a tightrope between life and death. Tupac wrote that he was being watched. He feared becoming a liability to death row. He tried to cancel the Vegas trip many times. And the final sentence on September 7th, hours before bullets sliced through the air, was a line that makes anyone who reads it feel their heart stop. If tonight goes wrong, the BMW knows where to take them. Tell Mom I tried. When the FBI put all the evidence together, they no longer saw a rap star living recklessly and dying because of fate's cruelty. They saw a man trying to be reborn, a director, a philanthropist, a founder of an independent empire. A man preparing to start over in another country, in another life. The unsolved case. 27 years after that fateful Las Vegas night, as old files reopened and new pieces surfaced, the Tupac Shakur case did not become clearer. In fact, the deeper they looked, the more it resembled a maze with more entrances than exits. No absolute evidence, no single culprit. Only a chain of broken connections, conflicting testimonies, and secrets so heavy that even those who knew the most stayed silent. What can be said is this: in the final months of his life, Tupac did not live like a man speeding toward destruction. He lived like a man racing against something greater than himself. An invisible force no witness could describe, no camera could capture, but one that clung to every plan he made. Everything found in the garage, from the 3 thick binders to the videotapes to the untouched BMW, pointed to one truth: Tupac saw a future waiting for him through that escape door. The only problem was, he never reached it. The current investigation has not produced many definite answers either. Keith D was arrested, but his statements opened more layers of doubt than resolution. The people inside the Cadillac are dead or vanished off the radar. Suge Knight, the one man at the center of every theory, remains completely silent. And in every interrogation, every news segment, every indictment, there is a shared feeling part of the truth always stays out of reach. Maybe because the one who knew the most is gone. Maybe because the darkest corners of the music industry at that time were too complex to expose. Or maybe because for 2.5 decades, the Tupac case was never just about who pulled the trigger. It was about which forces were protected, which connections could never be revealed, and which secrets had to remain buried forever. Until those questions are answered, if that day ever comes, the Tupac Shakur case will remain suspended between truth and legend. A file that never closes, an event that cannot be undone, and a future stolen that will probably never be returned.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.